Okay. Do me a favor, can you stick your hands out for me? There you go. Just keep them out for me. Put them on your steering wheel, okay? Just put them on your steering wheel for me. Okay, I know. 207.
Yeah, 2001 Ford truck, black and color, MSR, valid expiry.
That's Rick. I'll be out with it here at Burton Branch. All safe, self-storage. So you waiting for someone? Who is him? Oh, you waiting on him? Okay. What's your name? Chris? You got your car on drive on reverse? Why? Oh! 207 County, shots fired! Shots fired, County! Officer down! Officer down, County! Is coming after me, black Ford F-150. Ford F-150, County.
Umbrella. She's up, she's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. So, out in Pasadena, California, a brother by the name of Christopher Balu was beaten by the cops and they ended up breaking his leg. Now, let's go back and see exactly what happened with my brother that led to his leg getting broke by the police.
Yeah, get out of here, dude. I'm gonna put it out real quick, Larry. S95 traffic. Better stop back like a dummy, dude. Yeah, Woodbury and Fair Oaks. Give me your hand.
Alright, give me your hand right now.
You wanna act like a dummy, dude? Ain't no point in it, bro.
Separate your feet. Come on, man.
Stand by for
You hurting my ankle and shit, man? Come on, bro.
There you go.
Come on, man.
Better stop.
Stop.
Stop. Don't get up. Don't get up.
Do not get up.
I know,
Do not get up.
Bro.
Do not get up.
Come on, bro.
You're about to catch an
Do not get up.
I know, bro, but why? For what? I didn't even do
Do not get up. Give us your fucking hand.
Put your hand
in S95, we need another unit.
Kill it, bro.
Woodbury,
What
Fair
the
Oaks,
fuck?
Mobile Station.
Come on, bro.
Give us your fucking
You're
hand.
telling me put my hand behind my head, bro. My hand is behind my head.
S95, Fair Oaks,
My
Woodbury,
hand is
Mobile
behind
Gas
my
Station.
head, bro.
Put him in hooks.
Yep. Got him?
But what are you doing this for?
Woodbury, Fair Oaks.
Bro, where's your officer, bro? Where's your commanding officer? Where's your commanding officer? Where's your commanding officer at? Where's your commanding officer? Where's your commanding officer?
Shut the fuck up,
Where's
dude.
your commanding officer?
There's no point to act like
Where's your
this.
commanding officer? Where's your commanding officer? Where's your commanding officer? Where's your commanding
Don't
officer?
pull away from me.
Where's your commanding
Stop
officer?
pulling away.
Where's your commanding
Stop
officer?
pulling away.
Where's your commanding officer?
He has the cuts. He won't give me his hands.
What you doing, bro? Come on, man.
S95, we're in a fight.
Come on, bro.
Give me your hands. Give me your hands. Give me your fucking hands.
Come on, bro.
Give me your fucking hands. Give me your fucking hands.
My hand's right here.
Turn around. Turn the fuck around.
Come on, bro.
Turn around.
Oh, ow.
Give me your hands.
Okay. Ow. Stop,
Stop
please.
fighting. Stop fighting.
Put
Your hands behind your head.
Stop, bro. Come on, man. I'm innocent.
Give me your hands.
I didn't do anything, man. I'm just here, bro. I'm just trying to go home, bro. Come on, man.
S95,
What
still
are
fighting?
you doing, bro? Come on, bro.
We're good.
I didn't even do anything, bro. Come on, man. Come on, bro. I didn't do nothing to you. I didn't do shit. Come on, bro. Look at me. What the fuck is this?
That's not anybody. We having handcuffs.
Come on, bro. I didn't do anything to you guys. I was already put over getting gas. What are y'all doing?
There's no point in acting like
What
this,
are y'all doing, man?
There's no point in
Bro,
acting
what
like
are y'all doing? Y'all not doing this shit right. What are y'all niggas doing? Y'all niggas doing extra stuff, bro. Y'all niggas doing extra stuff, bro. What are y'all doing? Y'all just assaulting me, bro.
There's no point in acting like this.
Y'all just assaulting me.
You understand me?
Look at me, I'm leaking blood. Y'all assaulting me, bro. I don't do nothing but getting gas.
Yeah. You haven't patted him down yet.
I'm not doing nothing. I'm not doing nothing, man. All I'm doing is trying to get gas. I'm trying to go home. These niggas just assaulting me.
Can you get an RA, Sergeant?
All I did was try to get gas. I'm trying to go to a bitch until I got blood in my eyes and shit. Come on, man. Bro, I got blood in my eyes. I have blood in my eyes.
This is your car.
I have blood in my eyes. I have blood in my eyes, man. What are y'all doing?
You good, man? You good? Yeah, I'm good.
Y'all not doing the right thing right now. Y'all not doing the right stuff. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm right here trying to get gas. I'm trying to go to work right now, man.
Bro, take a breather, bro.
Y'all not doing the right thing. Y'all not doing the right stuff.
That's 96, that's 90, South Military.
Off the cuff, man. What is his badge?
You're not coming out of the cuffs right now.
I know, but no, I need it now.
Hey, you good?
My name is Christopher Balu.
Christopher?
Yes. Yes, man.
It's Larry and I.
Oh my God, my ID got stolen, bro. I'm trying to go home. I'm trying to get my fucking passport. What are y'all niggas doing? Y'all not doing the right thing, man.
Does he have the keys?
You got keys on him? I need that, and I also need
Yeah, he jumped out, bro. Jumped out on us in the car.
When he came out of the car?
Yeah.
Remember I told you got something in his hands?
Yeah, yep. He had the keys and his phone in his hand. Huh? Yeah. Just see the keys. Look for his keys, bro.
Hey, can we move some cars so we get the RA in here? I got mine.
What did he do with them?
He had them, dude.
I know he did.
He had the keys, bro.
Where'd you guys come this way?
He came this way. He
Alright, let's check.
Driver's side? Yeah. He felt like he got out quick and they toss up.
He's like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? I wasn't even driving this car, man.
I don't remember. He just seen me in the car.
So, police officers Larry Esparza and Zachary Luan pulled up on his brother Christopher Balu because of window tints and because he was missing his front license plate. Now, it looks like this brother had already pulled up at the gas station, had already got out of his car, looked like he even locked the door, and he was already walking towards the store by the time these officers pulled up. So they immediately walk up to this brother and grab him and put him up against the car and try to start searching him and to try to cuff him. Mind you, at this point, it's still just about a traffic violation. And of course, that's a violation of his Fourth Amendment. But, I guess we're just going to ignore that part. So, as they violate his Fourth Amendment rights, they're telling him, you better stop acting like a dummy. Just go along with it. Just do what we tell you to do. Now, initially, before the video was released, their story was he was running away and resisting arrest. Before they start jacking him up against the car, I didn't hear anybody say you're under arrest. I didn't hear anybody say you're being detained. But since this brother didn't just forfeit his constitutional rights and let the cops run his pocket, now he's resisting arrest. Now, as these cops are taking this brother to the ground over this traffic violation, he's still asking them, what did he do? They still haven't even told this brother why they are there in the first place. Now the police, especially if you're being detained, are supposed to tell you why. And this brother Christopher Balu also kept asking for a commanding officer, which they're also supposed to do if you ask. But the police were too busy punching him in the face and hitting him with a baton to do it. Then, in the initial report, they say this brother was grabbing for the police baton, was grabbing for the police weapon. And even though they're still supposed to be investigating, the police are already justifying it.
At 6 o'clock, Pasadena police releasing body cam video of a violent confrontation in which a man ended up with a broken leg. The video shows Christopher Balu at a gas station last month after 2 officers tried to pull him over for traffic violations. Investigators say Balu resisted arrest, and at one point he pulled a baton out of an officer's hand. And after getting hit and pulled to the ground, Balu was taken into custody. Officials say they chose to release the video to show the officers did the right thing.
It was just in the interest of transparency and for people to understand police procedures and just the overall interest in the what actually occurred during this incident.
Officials say the incident is under review, but both officers remain on active duty. We've reached out to Balu, and he does not want to talk.
Now, luckily, the brother Christopher Balu is all right. At one point in the video, one of the officers actually pulled his gun out. So luckily the brother is okay. And luckily they didn't charge the brother. But that's only because we had body camera footage of this incident. And they never even would have released the body camera footage if somebody else didn't take some cell phone footage and put it out. There have been millions of cases where there was no footage and the person ended up getting charged and the police ended up getting put on a pedestal. This is the first time the Pasadena police have ever put out footage. The city just gave them body cameras in 2016. So we'll never know what happened in cases like Reginald Thomas.
Meantime, tensions are rising in Pasadena right now after a father of 8 died in police custody. Officers used a taser gun on Reginald Thomas at his home on East Orange Grove in North Marengo after he refused to drop a knife. KCAL 9's Amy Johnson is live on the scene, and she's talked to the man's family. Amy.
Juan, there's still a large group of people out here at the apartment building where the 36-year-old died early this morning. They've been mostly peaceful, holding up signs, oftentimes chanting his name. However, about an hour ago, emotions erupted when the coroner came to take his body away. Tears, anger, and outrage as the body of Reginald Thomas was removed from this Pasadena apartment building.
He was a great person.
Thomas, affectionately called Junior or JR, was Antoinette Dulaney's younger brother.
He the one called them. So how do a victim that's calling for help get murdered?
Police say they received 2 911 calls just after 2 a.m. and responded to the apartment. They say Thomas had a fire extinguisher and a knife. They say they used a taser and force to subdue him, and say when they noticed he was in distress, they began CPR.
I'm hearing, I wasn't here, that they hog-tied him and tasered him repeatedly.
Forrest Elder's sister is pregnant with Thomas's baby. They have 4 children together. Thomas had 8 in all.
He's struggling with mental illness, you know, but the police know this. He's been in and out of little homes where they help him and give him medication. So I guess he called the police for help because he wasn't feeling well with himself. You know, he's in a house with children and his woman. So he called the police to come help him.
Many here wonder why he didn't get the help he needed.
He did not deserve to die because he was having a mental breakdown.
Now, some of the friends and family members say that they are trying to organize a vigil and a march here this evening.
Now, this brother Christopher Balu is suing the city, but these officers, Larry Esperada and Zachary Lewan, are still out there on duty. They still get to work patrol. Now, these cops can use whatever force they want, then get a paid vacation if they get punished at all, and get right back on the force. And if their punishment is a little bit longer than anybody else's, they'll just sue the city or take whatever action so they can get right back on the streets. A lot of these officers have multiple complaints about the use of force. But it's the black cops who are out here enforcing their law, who is helping maintain their system, They are the ones who are going to get charged with excessive force.
Former Michigan State Police troopers behind bars tonight until he posts $1 million bail.
Mark Bessner is charged with second-degree murder, and his attorney says they will not only have to try the case on the facts, but also the community mindset.
7 investigator Jim Kirchner has more on that case and 2 other Detroit cops also charged in high-profile assault cases.
Bond's going to be set at $1 million cash or surety.
It was stunning judicial discretion. Detroit Magistrate Barry Blakewood telling former trooper Mark Bessner that he has to post $1 million bond, full cash, or get a bondsman. And if he does bond out, he must wear a GPS tether.
It's a case that evokes enormous passion in the community, both, certainly in the law enforcement community and outside of it. I fully understand that.
It was back in August that Bessner was riding in the passenger side of a state police cruiser in pursuit of 15-year-old Damon Grimes, who was driving away at 35 to 40 miles an hour on an ATV. Bessner tasered Grimes, who crashed and died. The most serious charge against Bessner, second-degree murder.
So we're looking forward to having a dispassionate, fair-minded jury of Wayne County residents that can hear the facts in this case and decide it solely on the facts of this case.
This video shows DeMarco Kraft pepper sprayed, then dropped on the floor by Detroit City Police Officer Richard Billingsley. A cell phone that recorded the video was allegedly put in the trash by the cop. The two had a history of clashes. In court, the 25-year-old cop charged with felony assault, obstruction of justice. The same magistrate setting bond at $50,000. He can post 10% to get out on the assault, $5,000, 10% on the obstruction. In October, 24-year-old David Bivens is beaten by a Detroit off-duty police officer working security at the Meyer store on 8 Mile. The officer hits Bivens several times with a nightstick, all over wanting to check his receipt for items he purchased. In court, 65-year-old Officer Lonnie Wade is charged with felony assault and misconduct. The magistrate setting his bond at $50,000, 10%. The defense attorney for those 2 cops did not comment on his way out of the courthouse. Another Detroit cop, Ed Hicks, is charged in another assault. He quit and moved out to Seattle. He'll have to come back to Detroit to face his charges.
As soon as it get hot, the black cops are the first ones that's going to get thrown under the bus. It's the black cops getting charged more for excessive force than these white cops do for murder. Now, if a white cop violates all kind of policies and murders a kid or something, they might be charged. Just maybe. But most of the black cops that join these police forces have that, but what about black on black crime mindset? A lot of them have that mindset like Bernie Mac had in Don't Be a Menace.
We didn't even do nothing. Well, you think you're tough. You look so tough now, little nigga. Hate you black bastards. You stink. I hate your black skin. I hate your black pants. I hate black pepper. I hate black keys on the piano. I hate my gums because they black. I hate Whoopi Goldberg's lips. I hate the back of Forrest Whitaker's neck. Ah! And most of all, I hate that black-ass Wesley Snipes.
That's why it's important for us to have people that's about black empowerment not only go out and join the police forces, but to create our own police forces, to protect our communities from outsiders as well as from ourselves. We need to start dealing with our own. That's why it's important for us to focus on group economics so we can create organizations to protect ourselves. We need to build our own economy so that we can build our own schools and have our own curriculums. We give a lot of money away. We can easily take that money and start pulling it together so we can build whatever we need to build, so that we can have black banks and be able to produce our own food. and eventually build a system that will protect us. Our ancestors realized they were all they had, and we better realize we are all we got fast.
Newly released dash and body cam videos show a violent arrest in the moment police broke a man's leg as they tried to subdue and handcuff him. Now the Pasadena Police Department is investigating the incident for possible use of force violations. It was cell phone video of the incident that sparked public outcry and prompted authorities to release the police videos.
KTLA 5's John Fenolio is in Altadena where the altercation happened. He joins us live. John.
Cher and Micah, this is the gas station where that traffic stop turned violent. We want to warn you, the video you're about to see is disturbing.
Better stop back like a dummy, dude.
These are the moments before Pasadena police take down a motorist for allegedly resisting arrest.
Give me your hand.
All right, give me your hand right now.
You want to act like a dummy, dude? Ain't no point in it, bro.
This footage from a police body cam now being made public after bystander video of the November 9th incident posted to Pasadena Now went viral. The driver, identified as 21-year-old Chris Balu, can be seen struggling with officers. One of them repeatedly punches Balu in the face, while the other strikes him in the back and legs with a baton. Do you think that the officers acted appropriately?
Well, I'm here to share with you the fact that the city, in the interest of transparency and based upon the city manager's promise, has released the body cam camera video as well as the car videos.
A city spokesman says the officers stopped the man because he was missing a front license plate and his windows were illegally tinted. The city has released 6 body cam and patrol car videos. Here we see officers approach Balu. One of them holds him up against his car.
Come on, man.
Better
Stop. The man appears to be resisting as police try to handcuff him.
Well, give me your hands. Give me your hands.
As the situation escalates, one of the officers can be seen jabbing at the suspect with his baton. Balu appears to hold on to it as he's pulled to the ground again by the officer behind him. Bystander video posted to Pasadena Now also shows the suspect and the officer struggling over the baton before the officer regains control of it. And Balu is subdued.
Bro, come on, man. I'm innocent.
Give me your hands! Mr. Balu told Pasadena Now that he suffered a broken leg during the altercation. We did reach out to him, but he declined to be interviewed. Last week, the LA County District Attorney said it would not bring charges, citing lack of evidence. The unnamed officers in the video remain on patrol as the city of Pasadena conducts an internal investigation.
2 Pasadena police officers approached 21-year-old Christopher Balu because he had tinted windows on his car. It led to a very violent confrontation. Here's what that video looked like. It was caught by the police car's dashboard camera and one of the officers' body cams. Now it shows the 2 officers trying to cuff Balu, but then the incident escalates quickly to the point where officers use a metal baton to beat him, and at one point, one of the officers aims a handgun at him. The police report says Balu was resisting arrest and that he grabbed the baton. Balu says he was trying to do everything the officers told him to do, but that they were out of control and intent on beating him.
Every night, I wake up at 3 in the morning with the same nightmare about what happened, and I can't sleep at night. I've lost sleep every single night since what happened. I get anxiety whenever I see a police car, whenever I hear a police siren. My body starts to shake and I start to look around to see if they're coming for me.
Balu is left with a broken leg and multiple injuries to his face. His attorneys have filed a claim against the city of Pasadena, but have not said how much in damages they will be seeking. Now, Balu was booked into custody for assaulting an officer with a deadly weapon because he grabbed the baton at one point. Now, after reviewing the video, prosecutors have declined to file any charges against him.
Breaking news, peaceful protests moved through the heart of Pasadena tonight. And new at 11, we're hearing the 911 call before the in-custody death that sparked the community outpouring.
The protesters are grieving the loss of a father who died this morning in confrontation with Pasadena police.
Well, tonight we're also getting our first look at new security video just given out by the police. We begin our team coverage with CBS 2's Rachel Kim, who's live in Pasadena, where police just released those recordings. Rachel?
Well, Pat and Paul, sheriff's investigators and Pasadena police say they wanted to release the security video and the 911 call in the interest of public safety and transparency. Let's start off with the video from the apartment courtyard right now. Sheriff's investigators say Pasadena police got calls around 2 a.m. on a report of a family disturbance. When officers arrived at the apartment, they say they were confronted by a man family members identify as 36-year-old Reginald Thomas. Investigators say he was carrying a large knife and a fire extinguisher, and when he refused to drop the weapons, the officers deployed a taser a total of 3 times, but only one was effective. They then got into a physical struggle with him inside the apartment and restrained him around his feet. But when the officers realized Thomas was in distress, they removed the restraints and began to perform CPR. He later died at the scene. Now, family members said Thomas suffered from mental illness, that he was bipolar. They also said that this wasn't Thomas's first run-in with police. They said police knew he was mentally ill. Right now, take a listen to the last of 5 911 calls made to police by a juvenile from inside the apartment.
And what race is he?
African American.
Okay, and does he have any mental conditions?
Mom.
Does he have any mental conditions?
Give me back the phone. I don't want him to take it. Hello?
Hi, does he have any mental conditions?
I don't know. But now there he is.
Is he on drugs or anything?
Yes.
What kind of drugs?
I don't know. He's high though. I can tell that.
Okay, and where's the knife at now? Do you still have it?
Yes.
Now, the cause of death is being determined by the coroner's office. 2 Pasadena police officers were also injured but are expected to be okay. The police chief mentioned that their police officers at this time do not wear body cameras.
Drops the hammer on law enforcement today in several cases of excessive force. We begin with a former Michigan State police trooper who's now charged with the murder in the death of 15-year-old Damon Grimes.
Grimes was tasered while riding an ATV and he ended up crashing to his death back in August. 7 investigator Jim Kurtzner is live at the Michigan State Police Post with reaction to those charges. Jim?
As you just said, this case has been pending for 4 months. 3 investigations: Michigan State Police, Detroit Police, the Public Integrity Unit of the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. A long list of charges, but at the top of the list, a surprise, that charge of second-degree murder. The mother in this case says she's happy she's one step closer to justice for her son, Damon.
I miss him every day. He was only 15. He had his life ahead of him.
Damon Grimes was riding an ATV in Detroit back in August when 2 state police troopers tried to stop him for a traffic violation. But police say Grimes took off, and Trooper Mark Bessner, riding in the passenger side of the MSP cruiser, deployed his taser, shocking Grimes, who was going 35 to 40 miles an hour. He crashed and was killed.
It is a violation of our departmental policy to fire a taser from a moving vehicle.
Shaw says he agrees with the charges, including second-degree murder.
I want to apologize to, on behalf of all the department, to the Grimes family.
But for them, apology not accepted.
No. Why not? Because my son will be here today, and he's not.
The prosecutor says she can charge second-degree murder even if the intent was not to kill. She explains it this way.
If you're on top of the Empire State Building or top of a tall building, you drop a safe down on the people walking below. You may not intend to kill them, you may not intend to harm them, but certainly you created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm by your actions.
The Grimes family is suing Michigan State Police for $50 million in federal court.
Can you really put a price on somebody's constitutional rights being violated?
Now, Mark Bessner in this case is a former trooper. He quit after this. He's now facing up to life in prison as he's charged. That'll be up to a jury. He's going to make his first court appearance tomorrow morning downtown Detroit for an arraignment.
You know, state police officers usually rush to crime scenes. Well, tonight we're exposing the trooper who fled the crime scene after witnesses said he committed the crime.
7 investigator Ross Jones is exposing how a trooper tried to cover up his misdeeds and why he's still on patrol today.
This is a story about a state trooper, a collision, and a lie.
I just got sideswiped by a car. I'm at 8 and Lasher.
It begins here, in a parking lot off Evergreen Road in Southfield. While on duty last May, Trooper Kevin Clemons, seen here in a photo on Facebook, had pulled into a Chipotle restaurant in his Michigan State Police vehicle. He was backing into a parking space when, all of a sudden, the damage was minimal. A fender bender leaving a few scratches and a small dent, a few $100s to repair. But Trooper Clemons didn't notify the car's owner, leave a note, or report the accident. Instead, he pulled out of the space and left. The driver of the damaged vehicle turned out to be a 20-year-old college student who worked here at a Southfield restaurant. She didn't want to talk to us on camera for this story, but said off camera she learned about the accident from 2 people who witnessed it. They told her, and then they told police. According to police records, the 2 witnesses said they'd heard a loud crunch and saw the trooper commit a hit and run. Dispatch notified nearby officers that one of their own had been involved in an accident. Clemons was listening on his radio, and that's when he turned his small problem into a much bigger one.
241, go ahead. I just got sideswiped by a car. I'm at 8 and Lasher. He flipped and headed back east on westbound 8 Mile. I'm trying to catch up. Not exactly sure what kind of car it was. I think it was a gray sedan.
Clemons said he was the victim of a crime and in a police chase with the person responsible.
You get a plate? Negative on a plate. He turned behind me. There's a Michigan U-turn that was behind me. He took that and sped off back eastbound.
In truth, there was no chase, no sideswipe. Clemons made it all up.
He caused the accident. Yeah. He fled from the accident. He lied about the accident, and then he blamed it on somebody else.
Unbelievable that this officer would respond in that manner. You're violating policy.
For 32 years, Willie Bell was a Detroit police officer, and today he serves on the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners.
It's a simple accident, but now it leads to totally lack of confidence, not just in this officer, but police officers in general.
After the accident, MSP investigated, and Trooper Clemons admitted to making the whole story up. The case was forwarded to Attorney General Bill Schuette's office for possible prosecution. His office declined to charge him with anything, writing in part that while we are certainly not condoning the actions of the trooper, there are better ways to handle this particular incident.
In Michigan, we have one system of justice. That means the rules apply to all, no matter who you are.
We asked to speak with Attorney General Schuette on camera to understand why he chose not to bring charges. His office declined. MSP said they had disciplined Clemons, who's still on the force. But just how, they said, is a secret. According to MSP spokeswoman Shannon Banner, the state is prohibited from releasing the details of discipline that is part of an employee's personnel file.
The act does not prohibit an employer from giving this information.
Robin Luce Herman is a media law attorney for Butzel Long in Bloomfield Hills. She says how the trooper was disciplined is public information. The only requirement is that the employer, in this case MSP, needs to notify the trooper in writing that the discipline is being shared.
The public right to understand what happens with police officers who disobey rules, I think that outweighs any right that the individual officer may assert with respect to their privacy.
Now, the state's stonewalling here goes against its own recent practice of releasing disciplinary information. Just a few weeks ago, you'll recall, MSP Director Christy Kibiechu was docked 5 days' pay for a controversial Facebook post. That discipline was announced in a press release by Governor Snyder. Now, because MSP won't tell us what happened here, we've been forced to file a public records request to get it. That gives the state up to 3 weeks, really until early December, to have to provide the information, if they provide it at all.
They feel as though there's no justice because that person is protected by the shield.
And adding insult to injury, the owner of the damaged vehicle says state police promised to reimburse her the full cost of repairing her SUV. Months later, she's still waiting.
All right, and we back on the forecast. So out in Nashville, Tennessee, a brother by the name of Jocques Clemmons was shot 3 times in the back by police. Now let's go back and try to find out what happened with this brother and why he ended up getting shot in the back.
It is a drama that continues to this day, but it started back in February as a police shooting became one of the biggest stories of 2017.
That is when police shot and killed Jocques Clemmons, leading to an uproar among some who say police went too far.
News Channel 5's Jason Lamb tells us the protesting over his death even shut down a Metro Council meeting.
The shooting took place near the James Casey homes back in February.
My brother got killed today. He got 2 little boys. And I just want to know why.
At the time, police said 31-year-old Jocques Clemmons was shot and killed by Officer Joshua Lippert, who approached him about running a stop sign. Surveillance video taken from the Casey homes shows Clemons driving through a stop sign and parking in a nearby parking lot. A 5-year police veteran, Officer Lippert, pulls in behind him in an unmarked squad car. Next, the cameras capture confrontations between Lippert and Clemons. Clemons can be seen charging at Officer Lippert. According to police, during a scuffle, a pistol fell from Clemons' waistband. Police say he picked it back up and refused to drop it despite Officer Lippert's repeated demands to do so. Clemons can be seen between the 2 cars. Believing he was in imminent danger, Officer Lippert opened fire, shooting Clemons in the back. The local NAACP called for a complete and fair investigation.
Don't try to hide anything.
That's right.
Within days, several people who believed Officer Lippert didn't need to use deadly force took to the streets, including Black Lives Matter.
No justice! No peace! No racist! Police!
Meanwhile, other leaders like Reverend Enoch Fuzz called for a Citizens Oversight Commission for the Metro Police Department in an effort to ease tension.
A lot of times, people who have complaints against the police, all they need a lot of times is a place they can vent. And they can learn what really happened. This is how it works.
No justice, no peace.
Still, the protests continue.
Justice for Jacquees.
But this time, the group angry over the death of Jocques Clemmons took a new step.
Step back beyond those steps, please. As long as everybody acts appropriately, no signs in the courthouse.
Entering a Metro Council meeting already underway.
We are not leaving until we get a response.
And bringing it to a halt.
No. Meeting is adjourned for 5 minutes. Please clear the audience.
Justice for Jacquees!
The conflict over the shooting even extended to the agencies investigating it, with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and Metro Police agreeing that the TBI will investigate any future fatal officer-involved shootings in Nashville.
At one point, the handgun was pointed in the direction of Officer Lippert. Officer Lippert fired 3 times, striking Mr. Clemmons once in the hip, twice in the back.
Nearly 3 months after the shooting, Nashville's DA announced no charges would be filed against Officer Lippert. But the report criticized some Metro Police procedures that the DA's office said could lead to potential bias. Still,
we cannot have a police officer on the force who's a self-proclaimed vigilante.
Months after the decision, protests like this sit-in continue to this day after a shooting that is still a source of controversy.
So Officer Joshua Lippert pulled up on the brother Jocques Clemmons because he slowed down at a stop sign and he didn't stop all the way and he went through it. Now, in less than a minute, this officer pulled up on this brother about a traffic violation running through a stop sign, and within 30 seconds, the brother is dead. Now, initially, the police said this brother got out of his car, ran towards the officer and body checked him, and that he was fighting the officer. But after footage was released, we saw this brother was running away from the police officer. He was trying to avoid the police officer. Now, they say he was armed, and as the police grabbed him, a .357 Magnum fell on the ground. The officer claims he tried to kick it, but the brother picked it up and ran away. And that's when Officer Joshua Lippert was forced to shoot him in the back. Now, Tennessee is an open carry state. You can have a gun in Tennessee. And there's no way in 30 seconds you could have known whether he had a record or not, or whether he was able to carry it or not. But of course, the first thing they have to do is criminalize this brother and bring up his criminal record. Now, in order to justify this shooting, they had to make it known that this brother had some traffic violations, a misdemeanor domestic abuse charge, and some petty drug charges. But when you look at this officer's record, he has a history of violence and brutality in the past. He has been a cop for 5 years and has already been disciplined 8 times, including use of force, not showing up for court dates, and in 2015, he used physical force to pull another brother out of the car, which he got in trouble for. But this particular case ended up causing some beef between the police chief and the DA.
Now, the fallout continues tonight from the Jacquees Clemmons shooting. 24 hours after the district attorney cleared Officer Lippert in the shooting, questions are swirling about bias within the Metro Police Department. News Channel 5's Chris Conti takes a closer look.
This is not the first time the district attorney and the police chief have butted heads. It is, however, the first time a disagreement of this magnitude has played out in the public spotlight. Couple that with Jocques Clemmons' death, and it's made for a tumultuous few months within the department.
Yesterday offered a little bit of clarity.
Sometimes, in the swirling clouds of chaos, it is easy to rush to judgment. But consider this. From the first time Jocques Clemmons walks into frame to the moment he dies, 15 seconds pass.
We just have seconds to make a decision.
5 seconds. Clemmons is thrown to the ground. His gun falls.
And I see his right hand come up, and that's the one that he picked the pistol up with.
9 seconds. He's seen running away. Grabs his gun. 13, 14, 15. 3 shots. 1 to the hip, 2 to the back.
And at that point I fired, and I fired until the threat stopped.
No officer wants to put their badge on in the morning and take a life in the afternoon.
James Smallwood is president of the Fraternal Order of Police. What surprised him the most lately is the divisions made clearly public between Metro and the DA's office.
Metro Nashville Police Department's reports refer to the parties in the investigation in a way that projects potential bias.
I can't put a connection to anything that we've done on this case or other cases that indicates any bias.
At the heart of the disagreement, the DA saying Metro called the shooting, quote, justified homicide 5 hours after it happened. Metro, though, only has 4 classifications of homicide to choose from.
They'll follow those guidelines until they're changed, and at this point I don't know that there's any necessity for them to be changed.
In the cloudy chaos of uncertainty, rushing to judgment is often the easiest thing to do.
He's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life.
Chris Conti, News Channel 5.
Thanks, Chris. Officer Lippert remains on administrative duty tonight. Chief Anderson will make a decision on his employment in the coming weeks following the recommendation of the Use of Force Board.
The D.A Glenn Funk wanted the police to stop their investigation because they were doing their own investigation, which was supposedly a separate investigation. And he was actually helping the police out, trying to tell them that when you investigate your own cases, it looks suspect. You seem biased. But the police chief, Steve Anderson, didn't like it, and he wanted to continue with his own investigation, which he did. But at the end of the day, the DA, Glenn Funk, the police chief, Steve Anderson, along with the mayor, Megan Barry, who calls herself a liberal, they all came to the conclusion that shooting Jocques Clemmons in the back was justified.
Immediately after the DA announced no charges would be filed, Metro Police released their entire investigative file. Our chief investigative reporter, Phil Williams, has been digging through that evidence. And Phil, what are you finding?
Well, Vicki, we've been taking a close look at video from a police interview with a local resident who witnessed the encounter. D.A. Glenn Funk says that woman's account was a key factor in his decision not to prosecute.
Like bang bang, then there's like a little pause, and then there's a third bang. So it's like bang bang bang, about like that.
Did you actually see the officer shoot him, or did you just hear the gunshots?
I just heard the gunshots.
Now, Stephanie Fry lived in the neighborhood, and she told Metro Police she had just come home from lunch when she saw Officer Joshua Lippert chasing Jocques Clemmons. Video from the neighborhood shows the traffic stop, and it shows Clemons running from the officer. Seconds later, the two were engaged in a scuffle. Fry told investigators that Lippert was trying to kick the gun away, but that did not work.
They were scuffling just for like a brief, like 5 seconds probably. And he was, I guess he was trying to kick it or trying to do something. I don't know. but he wasn't able to. The guy still got it, and he put it back into his pocket, and he proceeded to keep running, and the officer told him once again to stop, put your hands up, and he didn't, and I heard 3 shots.
Now, police also released video of interviews with Officer Lippert himself.
It only took the Nashville Police Department 5 hours to investigate and justify this murder, in which the D.A Glenn Funk ended up co-signing, and the liberal Mayor Megan Barry ended up co-signing, even though she said, well, things have to change after this, and that she wants to change procedures so that the police can't investigate themselves. But all it took was one witness who said they only heard the shooting, but this one witness is credible enough to throw the whole case out, even though there was another witness who said they heard the cop use racial slurs afterwards, but the police couldn't verify that one.
Like I said, we was in the house at first when the shooting started out. When the shooting started, basically I ran outside to see what was going on. I see that the police officer had his gun drawn down on Jacquees, and basically once I got to the wall, he mumbled, basically, why would you do such a reckless thing like that, you it's a very, I'm not going to say it's a coward thing to say because you shot a man and you sit there insulting him while he's down, but it's not the right thing to say upon a situation that just happened like that. But I really do, all prayers go out to that family. Like I said, it's just an unfortunate event that happened. I hope that the police officer gets a little bit more punishment than what he got. If he even got it, I don't even think he got the punishment for the news I said, but I think he deserves a little bit more punishment than what he got. And that's basically all I can really recap on the whole subject. I mean, I told both sides of the story, TBI and the police department the same story, but I don't know what else I can say differently or more than the same.
But at the end of the day, Officer Joshua Lippert shot this man in the back, won't face charges, he won't get fired, he's still on the police force, and the Nashville Fraternal Order of Police President, James Smallwood, is the one that's upset, saying that it's frustrating that this police officer hasn't returned to the field. They are upset that this cop even had to go on desk duty, because of course their investigation came to the same conclusion as everybody else's, that this shooting was justified. And we seem to be the only ones that's not upset about it, at least not enough to take action. We shouldn't be satisfied just seeing a few cops get charged, because even on the occasions where the cops do get charged, they rarely get convicted anyway. Even when they charge them, they keep pushing their cases further and further back. Like the officer Roy Oliver who killed Jordan Edwards, they keep pushing his trial further and further back. And even when the rare cop does get convicted, what punishment does he have to face? Even if they are convicted and they do go to prison, we are still living under their system. We are still subject to their laws. We are still under their jurisdiction, and we are subject to their punishments. We cannot punish people who commit crimes against us. And as long as we can't punish the people who break our laws and violate our rules and violate our people, and until you have an army that'll back up what you say, we will continue to be subject to their laws and subject to their punishments. But nobody else can give us justice. We have to take justice for ourselves. We just got to realize we already have the power to do it.
Just a week after the district attorney's office released its decision not to indict a Metro police officer for the shooting death of Jocques Clemmons, the Justice for Jacquees Coalition holds a town hall meeting to address community members' concerns. News Channel 5's Kimberly Davis explains why many of those questions weren't answered.
My question to the DA is y'all don't have no power, do you?
Issues that matter to the people of Nashville, especially when it comes to governing their communities.
What do we need to do to change these laws to get behind you all?
The Justice for Jacquees Coalition held a town hall for the community to address Metro leaders about problems that need fixing.
When is the mayor going to be the mayor and handle the police chief? Number two, when is the DA going to be the DA and be the chief prosecutor in this jurisdiction and stop allowing the police to do it.
The only problem, a lot of those questions couldn't be answered by the representatives the mayor's office and district attorney's office sent.
I can't really speak for the mayor to that question, to that particular question. That's an answer that has to come directly from the mayor.
That's a question for General Funk.
But people like Jocques Clemmons' parents were hoping their questions could be answered today.
Why they couldn't be here? They said that they had another event to go to? Like, we're not important.
They should have been here.
I understand.
Because you can't answer our questions.
Metro Police was not represented at the town hall, even though an invitation was extended to the department. This is just the first of what the community expects to be many more meetings and hopes to have some more questions answered next time around.
The police are not here, so I'm not going to speak on what the police do.
In Nashville, I'm Kimberly Davis, News Channel 5.
We also reached out to Metro Police and asked why no one from the department was present. We never received a response.
The hundreds who filled Max Berry's memorial service, there were a number of notable names, including Governor Haslam and former Governor Phil Bredesen. This tragedy has impacted so many different lives. News Channel 5's Chris Conti continues our coverage from the mayor's office. Chris?
And Rory, aside from the governor, there were a number of former mayors at today's service, all of whom have occupied this office at one time or another, but none of them have ever lost a child. And they all echoed the same sentiment today, how unimaginable it must be for the mayor right now to be shouldering this kind of grief, not just as a public servant, but as a mother as well.
It's been really tough.
As the son of Nashville's mayor, Max Berry had no official title. You'd never know it by looking at the dignitaries who arrived for his memorial service today.
The city of Nashville came and surrounded the mayor with our love.
Governors and former mayors, the district attorney, complete strangers. This is a loss which has touched us all.
The loss for a parent, for a friend, for a city is unspeakable.
Bill Purcell saw his share of tragedies while serving as Nashville's mayor, but nothing like this.
Nashville was there. Nashville was on the stage. Nashville was there in the theater. Nashville was all around this family and this loss.
Near silence surrounded the mayor and her husband Bruce as they left their only son's memorial service. On her face, pure pain. Yet in her actions, all politics aside, admirable courage.
How they raised him was important also. They raised him to love people. They raised him to embrace his community.
As she walked down the street, she first turned to the media and mouthed the words, "Thank you." Then, as she continued on toward Hillsborough Village, the mayor stopped and thanked every police officer she encountered.
The city should let Megan be Megan and not demand that she be mayor right now.
Max's death has left a great number of this community in shock. But his parents, instead of retreating into their grief, have decided that this is the way they will move forward.
And that's the thing about life. We must live our lives for today.
We still don't know when the mayor will return to work here, but the city council and the vice mayor have all said that they will continue business as usual until she decides it's time to return to work.
Are under fire, accused of victimizing several contractors.
6 Detroit cops are being investigated for misconduct right now, and tonight we're asking the department about the allegations.
7 Action News reporter Naya Harden standing by live at DPD headquarters. And Naya, what did the contractors say happened to them here?
Well, Stephen, 5 of those contractors tell us they were in a house that they were allowed to be in. They had paperwork for it, is what they're telling us. They say that's when these police came to that house, questioned them, and told them to run. Antoine Knowles says he and 4 other men came back from lunch Saturday afternoon. They were cleaning a house on Ohio Street when they say Detroit police approached them. Neighbors called saying someone was trying to break into the home.
She basically wasn't trying to hear it. I tried to show her the work order. They didn't want me to go in the car and all this and that.
Knowles said they were not allowed to show paperwork or call their boss.
He started telling people to run. He called Noodle Boy, called one guy Noodle Boy, told him he got 30 seconds to get out of here, made him run. Then the next guy made him run. Then told the last 3 to turn around, put our hands behind our back.
Knowles says a police officer told them to run or they would go to jail. Police say that's not entirely true.
There was no paperwork that they could provide to show that they were a cleaning crew, they were invoiced,
or contractors showing an invoice that they were hired to do any work at the location.
They do admit that an officer violated policy by making them run off when their records came back clean. Assistant Chief Arnold Williams says the conversation should have gone like this.
After we investigated you, we have nothing to show that you tried to break into this location. We have no reason to detain you. I'm sorry that it was inconvenience, and thank you for assisting us while we were going through our investigation. And then they should have just been released from the scene.
The incident is now being investigated, but the officers are still on the street.
It was a mistaken judgment. It was an exercise of poor judgment to have each one of these individuals run.
I get them to come to work, and you're chasing them out of work. And you're the cops. Do you see the irony in that? Like, the backwardness of that.
Personally, I just think it was some bull, you know, just too much authority.
Now, Areli, the company, the contracting company that these 5 men work with, they are trying to take better steps to make sure that people in the neighborhood know who they are. So they now have those hoodies that you see with their information on it. You also will start to see signs. They'll have signage up posting that they are a legit company.
Yeah, you can get beat.
All right, and we back on the forecast, and I want to say RP to the brother Jocques Clemmons, and I'm glad the brother Christopher Balu is all right, and he's still here to tell his story. But for things to change, we're going to actually have to do something about it. We're going to have to focus on group economics to put our money together. We have to pool our money together so we can put black businesses in our neighborhoods. We cannot build our own schools without an economy. We can't get the best teachers and create a curriculum designed to empower our children. Without economics, we can't create organizations to protect ourselves, to create our own police forces. Our ancestors left us the blueprint on how to do all of these things. We just have to learn how to protect ourselves and protect what we build. But without an economy, you cannot build an army. And without an army, you cannot protect yourself. And if you don't have an army and a nation backing up whatever you say, then nobody's going to take you serious. And after hundreds of years of all the blood that we have spilt, that should be more than enough motivation to do it. So as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.